So, good morning, Anina. Thank you for letting us interview to you today. It's very important for us. You are one of the foreigners with a big history here on the island. First of all, let us know where are you from and what brought you here.
Good morning. Thank you for interviewing or talking with me. My name is Anina. I'm from Berlin in Germany, and I'm in the US, I can say, for my whole life because my parents came here in 1958 for the first time. They came again and again.
1958, eh?
Yes, 1958.
Before tourism began.
Well, there was already a kind of tourism, but of course, from very, very few people and very, uh, let's say, people who were in love with the old history of Greece. And so in this way, my parents traveled also to Greece. They first went to Mykonos to go to Delos, of course. Then in Mykonos, they met a couple of actors and dancers from Switzerland, and they just came back from Eos and told my parents, "Go to Eos, go to Eos. It's you will just feel so fantastic energy and you will."
So even back then, there was a feeling about EOS before 58. People were traveling around EOS to learn the history, and something attracted them to EOS.
Exactly.
And with the word of mouth, they were more and more people were attracted to it.
And I think also a little bit the same like in Mykonos. Also the colors of the stones are the same. I think the quality of the beaches. I mean, they're more beautiful in Eos, but there is something energy-wise probably why Delos was also constructed, which is also, it's also in Eos. Like, and that's what my parents kept here.
So the energy,
It's the energy, yes, it's a spirit and it's an energy. And it's the beauty of the landscape, it's the beauty of the light, and it has something very special. I can imagine it's for some people also like in Sifnos, Serifos, or Morgos, but for my parents it was here in Ios.
okay.
And so in the beginning, they started coming in summer. They were always freelance, so they took 3 months, 4 months off, and they were here. And then they started to buy one plot of land, which was completely out of everything. It was the coastline, but had no electricity, just a donkey path leading to it, no water. And my father, especially, always had a dream, and the dream was to have build two towers
Okay.
and to have two round rooms and a lot of trees. So it was always about the trees, and planting the trees. Even if this area is called also Pondu, so it has harsh winds and it's rough and it's coming from the sea. But so what he first built was a cisterna. So even not the walls for the house, but a cisterna to collect the rainwater, to collect the rainwater, and the rainwater for the trees. And after this was built, you know, there were men with their hands getting out the stones, and with those stones was built a cisterna. And if there was a need of sweet water, they brought it on a donkey from the village to this place.
So let me get this straight. The first thing your father built on your new house was the stern,
Yes.
the water, because back then there was no water collection, and he built.
There was nothing.
There was nothing, no micro dams, no
Nothing,
water pipes, nothing.
But you could see that probably in older times, people used to have fields there.
Okay.
Because there were the terraces, the dry walls, and it was obvious that there was some harvesting going on, or let's say some what the animals needed, or so. But there were no springs, no wells, no microdams. Nothing. Just really many months later, they discovered old drawing from 30, 100 and
Oh,
something.
really?
And there is a building with two towers drawn exactly on the place where my father had the dream to build a house with two towers. So there was maybe something before, but of course we didn't found
Any relics?
and any remainings or something. And so then once the cisterna was built and the first water was collected, they started planting the first trees, and they started with the outlines of the house, but only with the two towers and the kind of courtyard, so not so big. And then they realized, oh, maybe the trees need to be more protected from the seaside. And so the house grew bigger and bigger and bigger, but this means also more rooftops to collect more water. And so there were huge tanks built in this house to collect always the rainwater. So we always used our own water, and also with still no electricity. We got
Okay, with no electricity, how did you build the house?
by hand. It was built by hand, and the people came. There was a crew of workers, and they always with a big smile and passion in their eyes. You could see this, and they did everything by hand. And sometimes there was a little kaiki coming, and this brought some sand, for the construction. But it was always by hand, so there was never a generator or something like this used. And it was hard work because the stones were heavy, it was hot, and the sun was shining. But still, the people came kept on coming and coming and loved this way of building because it was done with a lot of love and passion, with no architect involved. So also there was not a kind of hierarchy. Yeah? So it was. There was my father, and there were those buildermen. And my father was also, touching the stones. And I remember as a child, when I was 6 years old, we always had to take with buckets the water out of the cisterna to give it to the plants or to use it for ourselves. And that's the first time when I realized, oh, I get some muscles. Wow. So I mean, we were proud also of doing like this. And we had no car. So we were always walking. It was 25, 30 minutes walk from the place to the village. If you wanted to buy some food or some vegetables or some
Anything.
well, things what was needed. Also, we never had a boat, so it was really physical work, and I think that's the part. It's about the physical work, and the whole island was over the centuries and thousands of years. It was always about physical work, but the physical work now we say, oh, they were poor or so. I think it's the opposite because, of course, the little babies were dying quite often, but on the other side, the people they were very old. They died at 80, 85 and more. But why? Because they were outside and doing physical work. They were moving and they were touching the soil and they harvested and they planted and they had everything. They did their own linen, so they had fabrics to be sewn. They had wool. They knew how to do so. All this craftsmanship was alive, and they had 22 windmills here, or even more.
Yes.
This means also that it was necessary to have so many windmills because there was so much wheat
Production.
and other kind of corns growing, which needs to be grinded in the mills.
So you came here like in 58. When did you start building the house?
Well, my parents started building the house in 69.
69?
I was born in 67. And at this time, we used to live. Yes. We used to live here around the corner,
Yeah.
Mozart's place. But also there, a house with no electricity, so we had some petroleum lights, and the shower was always cold shower. Just the kind of there was a little room with a toilet, and
Yes,
then
yes.
there was a tub, and we had what you use for the garden. So it was very simple, but it was, I never missed the hot water.
So it was totally different than in Germany, for example,
Yes.
because back then in Germany it was more modern. You had more.
It was more comfortable.
More comfortable, but you didn't miss all this.
Nothing, because even as a child, sometimes, of course, for me, always walking, it was a bit, and we used to walk also from the village to Aya Theodoti, also all by
Oh, you
feet.
walk all from the village to Aya Theodoti, eh?
Yes.
Using what? The old paths?
The old paths, yes, and of course, it was spiky, and it was not free cut. Of course, at this time, the paths were more used, because you had the country people using those paths, also with the donkeys or with the goats. But I remember sometimes I was crying. It was a bit too much, but still, in a way, I liked it so much. You had wind on your skin, the seawater, the sun. I mean, I never remember that we took sun cream or sun protection, but I never was burned also. And also the sea was so beautiful. My father was a diver, but without tanks, free diver, but he could go very slowly, very deep. And I had also glasses to watch him. And it was beautiful because there were so many different kinds of shells and the big fishes. I mean, it was full of life, the sea ground.
So the island was full of life. You were living in nature, in contrary with your life in Germany. And what about the interaction with the locals? You told us that your new house was isolated, was like half an hour away from the village. But did you go out in the village here where we are right now?
Let's say we were not the kind of hippie people. No, so for sure not. It was in a different spirit. So even if we hadn't electricity, for me it was a kind of luxury how we were living, because we had space. We could go to the sea nearly every day to the village. Also in the morning to buy bread. My father went every morning to the village to buy bread. And then a little bit later, as a teenager, I went also around 10 o'clock to have a coffee. I found it very cheap to come with a book and to sit and to drink my coffee. My mother liked going out and dancing. And of course, she knew most of those people. My parents knew most of those people, but they were not so much in this interaction, because also they had visions really in their life, and we weren't people doing holidays or something like this. So here we were always working also. I mean, physical work, and that means that of course they had great times here in the village in the evenings, sitting in the tavernas with other people coming from other countries. Those who spent the winter in India and came in summer to Eos. But it was just on the periphery, so it was not too much linked with this. And the locals, it was different, because I remember when we were hiking to Pado Campo, Buri, Ayasurdot, there was always someone saying Cristo or Dina, and then coming with a big bunch of basil or something. Or we got the fresh cheese, or when they harvested grapes or olive oil or pigs. So there were always something which was given. So it was very, very generous from the people. I remember also when I was little, I was sick. I was staying in the house in the village. My parents were in the construction site, and there were the builders coming to see me and to bring me food or to rub my belly with alcohol that I feel better. So it was, in a way, I had the feeling we were part of the community. And I think also nearly every family from the EOS once worked in this dream of my parents. Must say also it was not the kind of house where you have a lot of money and you build it and in 2 or 3 years it's ready. Not at all. It's a lifetime project. So my father always said, well, winter is there for dreaming and summer is for doing. So, and of course, winter was for earning some money to spend here in the summer, but sometimes there was also not so much money. So it was really more of dream, and not about, oh, we possess some land, or we are rich, we have a huge house or so. Not at all. This was absolutely not. Um,
Different mentality. It was a
it was
different
different.
mentality. It wasn't a luxury.
Yeah,
It was a lifestyle
no,
of
and
working on the
something
land.
from the heart, and the inside search for uplifting or a free spirit, or being yeah, being free.
Being free.
Because I think that's something very important. Yours has an energy which suggests or gives you freedom. That's how I can explain also that we have this huge party culture here. And still now the kids are coming and you see them nearly naked in the supermarket. You don't see this in any other kind of island, but it's the energy of the island. And also the locals, they just let do. They care, of course, in a way, but outside they don't care.
Okay, so you think
It's something very special, and maybe they don't think about it, but it is the reality here. I mean, you go to Mykonos, you go to Naxos, Paros, Sidon, Syrifos, you don't see those kids nearly naked in the supermarket. What is the case here? Or this party crowd. Of course, you have DJs and you have parties and so, but not in the way how it's done in EOS.
so here you think the island is more free. Thus, we have it gives the possibility for the tourists, for example, to enjoy their life and have more lighted to be more lighted spirit to act like crazy, which is also good.
Yes,
So
the
it's
EOS,
vivid.
yeah, it's more than this. It's much deeper because it's, of course, you have the same laws than everywhere here, but it just don't care. But I mean, inside, of course, there are penalties and everything, huh? But deep inside, there is um there is this free spirit.
You feel more free here on the island.
Yes.
So you think that this touring that we have here on the island, for example, in May or June, for example, it expresses the island. It expresses the freedom of the island because EOS is not only like, for example, like we see in some walls here a fake Mykonos. It's a spirit of freedom, and
Exactly.
these kids when they come here in May or in June or even in July, they express themselves in a free way.
Exactly, and that's absolutely this. And most of those kids, they only come once in their life. And that's the sad part of the story. They are here for 10 days, 2 weeks. They are completely free and let it go completely. And afterwards, they are stuck in their regular life, in their work life, in their family life. And they will probably their whole life talk about what they experience here in EOS, but they don't do it every year. Some are coming back, but very few. And most of those who are coming back came here in the 70s or in the 80s. But I think the last 20 years, those kids, um, they're just coming once in their life. And that's, in a way, it makes me a bit sad because they are stuck in a pattern of society. And also when I see how much they have to get out, this means they have something inside which is really a burden for them. And I mean, otherwise, I cannot explain how you have to drink so much, to take so much drugs, and to just
Okay.
need to exploit like this. There is something inside what has to come out. And I think also those kids, of course, EOS has a bad reputation because of them, but they also protected EOS. And they protected EOS so much. You know, there's one main beach, the Buddha Beach, which is crowded. But also this is very decent when you compare it to the beaches in Italy or in Spain. It's very decent and also far out. It's small. You know, when I show this to friends, they say, oh, that's it. They say, yes, that's it. So, and they really protected EOS. So you go to other beaches, like Tristiesiet or so, there's no one in summer. Even August, if you see one or two, three, four, five people there, that's already a lot. Or you go to Calamos, you can go by car to Calamos, but those are empty beaches. And so they were protected because of this bad reputation. Now, as a business person, I see those places, and of course, um, I want to invest. And so I understand all investors coming and saying, no, that's simply not possible that you have a Cycladic island with one of the most beautiful beaches and you don't invest there. I mean, it's clear, it's obvious, and it was logic that it will come one day or the other.
So they try to exploit
of course,
the space, for example, the beaches.
Of course. I mean, on the business point of view. On the other side, that EOS was not spoiled is also a big asset what EOS had, and an opportunity to do it in a different way, to learn what happened on other islands like Paros, Antiparos, and so you could see how it lost the identity. Because what is identical for all people coming to the Cycladic Islands, never mind the budget they have, if they are super hyper wealthy rich, or if they have really just 200 euros or come from very, um, let's say, poor families, they are looking for the identity and for the beauty itself. So for the nature, the beaches, the simplicity. What is the simplicity? The simplicity in good quality taverna food, the simplicity in just being on a beach and or on the seaside. So for all of them, it's the same reason why to come. And if this is destroyed, then who will come?
Then what?
Then who will come?
Who will come?
And when you see what is happening, for example, in Paros, where now the whole coastline is built with houses which look absolutely the same. It's like copy paste, so they have no personal identity. So you have an architect who's designing it, an interior designer. You have a swimming pool. You have a family who's moving in, but you can be sure that after 6 years or 10 years, they sell the place. Why? Because it has no identity. There's no personal spirit in this. But what is happening for the locals? They have sold their land. So for future generations, they have nothing left. And then what is happening? Where's the identity going? And it's not. And this was something where EOS had a chance to do it differently. And of course, they don't do it differently because they're also not superhumans and they are just human beings.
So the people came here to enjoy the freedom of the island. To summarize, for example, I'm trying to summarize. They came here to explore the island because there's a lot of freedom. It's a blessing that EOS island is not very exploited. Most of the people are gathered in a few places and they interact all together. There is always, let's say, a disadvantage when you have open spaces and people go over there and they try to explore something new and they will exploit it. For example, the new beach, which is normal. And you also say that sooner or later, gradually, the locals are losing their identity because they are building more and more the same things and they're using the same pattern. Am I correct?
Yes, exactly.
So, on first hand, we have people trying to live in a free spirit. Then they come back again as older persons. They enjoy the sun, for example. They enjoy something different. Not only the beaches, the parties, and things like that. They enjoy nature when they come in the 30s, in the 40s, for example, like me or you probably. But what about the locals? You told me that the island is losing their identity. They sell their land. Was it always like this when you first came here on the island?
When I first came to the island, for example, I remember that this platea was completely alive. Not only alive because there was a Cafe Neo and there was a restaurant, but also because people were sitting here, mostly men, and selling what they have harvested on their fields. And that's why I called also the place here Agora.
Agora.
Because in early summer they had some vegetables and lots of fruit and so on. So it was very alive. Now there's basically one farmer left who is selling his vegetables. And mostly the people buying are the owners of the restaurants or the foreigners who have houses. So the local people prefer going in the supermarket and buying tomatoes from Spain or from Belgium, which
Okay.
which have no really taste. And I think that's a kind of image for something. For example, also when you go with kids from the school for 14, 15 years old now, the countryside, it happened a couple of days ago. They were under an olive tree and asking, what are those fruits? So they even didn't know what is an olive or how does an olive look like.
So we have a shift in culture. People, instead of being more farming, more living on the land, they gradually shifted to tourism.
Yes, but to tourism without knowing or thinking why the tourists are coming. The
Okay.
tourists are coming because they want the local olive oil, they want the local cabaret, they want the local products. But if no one is producing the local product and you have to import everything from Turkey or other countries, it's a problem.
So this is very important to say that or the tourists here come on this island mainly for the identity because it has a unique identity in comparison to the other islands. But gradually, this is shifting, this is changing,
Exactly.
and more people work on the tourism industry, and the island is losing their identity.
Exactly, exactly. And also, for example, every mentality on every island is different from the people. You can explain it through history on the pirate times when they took
Exactly.
people. So in EOS, the mentality is also they want a very low season. So they start, let's say, beginning of June, but want to end in the first 10 days of September. And so this means also that in this very short time, they want to make a maximum of money. But the maximum of money they only make with really cheap products, let's say €1 shots for alcohol or so. And because mostly those kids, they don't have a lot of money to spend. But the people who have more money to spend, families or let's say couples or travelers whose kids are already out of the house, who are more traveling in September, October, beginning of November, they stay on the island for 1 or 3 days and then they leave because nothing is open. And that's a difficult point because I see it in my own place. And for sure, they spend more money. They can afford to spend 50, €60 for dinner at night with a nice bottle of wine. And yeah, and exactly this.
This is the mentality.
That's a mentality now. For sure, not to walk. Take your motorbike. It doesn't matter if it makes noise, if it's pollution, but for sure, not walk 20 meters or 30 meters.
Yeah, we get lazy. This is a
Yes,
different
and they
mentality.
get,
Obese.
let's say, heavy
Obese.
weight.
Let's say, okay.
And that's why 70% of the people
Of
living
the
here
Greek people.
have, no, especially also on this island, they have serious, serious health problems. Also at school, I see it. You can say that 60% of the kids already have health problems. 2 generations ago, people had it maybe at the age of 50 or 60. And that's because of this industrial food they buy in the supermarket.
It's the food and also the difference in mentality. We're not walking even when the everything on the island is within walking distance.
Exactly, exactly. So there's no physical activity.
Activities here.
And also at lunch they eat chips and I mean all this what is really poison. We can say. I mean, I'd say a bit too high, but in fact it is poison for the body. And if you see how sick it is, and this makes me, it's so sad because it has to do also with the identity. They will wake up, but then it's too late because the land is sold. So there's no place to make agriculture again.
This is also what I think. I think that the culture of building big villas and Airbnbs is sooner or later is going to come on the end. It's not going to last long because everybody is building the same. and gradually people are gonna they have to go back on the land, even if it means they have to work harder and harder. Because I understand it's a hard work cultivating the land, growing olive trees, and things like that. But at the end, it's a different mentality.
Yes, it's a different mentality, and also the soil is so fertile. And now we come to the water problem. Of course, I understand now every house needs a swimming pool. I mean, personally, I don't understand, but let's say from business way, I understand, and also people are here to swim in the sea, so they prefer the chemical treated water. But from the local mentality, what I don't understand is you have water coming from desalination. You have water coming from, if it's raining, okay, this water is collected, so can be used.
There are water
And
things.
you have water from drilling. So most of the good water, let's say from the drilling and from the rainwater, is going to the swimming pools. And the desalinated water is going to the houses. And so what the people are eating, drinking, and taking on their skin when they take a shower or washing their laundry. So there must be, for me, a law that if you want swimming pool, it's only with a desalinated water. The next problem is if you think that desalination is the key to have a lot of water, it needs technical advisement and it needs really highly schooled technicians to maintain those plants. You just cannot build a desalination and leave it with some local plumbers to fix it more or less. No, they are not able because first of all they have a lot of work due to all the constructions and the maintenance, but also for this you need specialized people. So you can say that all
So
so you
let's
can say that
let's say
all this desalinated water, what you use, for example, for watering your plants, or as I see it in my garden, is killing the plant. And but if you don't plant trees, there will be no rain. So this
exactly. This is also what I believe. The more you plant, the more you attract rain. I'm a firmly believer of
this
this.
is proven. So once I had a dream. I mean, it sounds a bit kitsch now, but I have to tell you two dreams. I was really dreaming. Once I had a dream. Oh, I have a big cargo boat, and everyone can bring the broken cars and get 50 euros when they bring the broken cars. So this
Because there are several broken cars around here.
around. So
Yes,
trash is
yes.
a big problem. But
They
this
plant them.
so, and the other one is imagine if every person coming on this island gives 1 euro. Every person, every single person, 1 euro per person is not much. And you plant trees, like carob trees or the trees
Oh,
used to be here on the island, who don't need a lot of water. And you pay from this money also some people to the municipality to care about those trees. Imagine what will happen in 20 years. There will be forests. So the island
this is what happened really in 20 years ago. One of the mayors
yes,
decided to give olive trees to the locals
exactly,
and plant them.
exactly. And I think also, at school, every child should have one tree and care about this tree.
Adopt a tree, huh?
Yes, and care about the tree. And so to get a knowledge and the sensitivity, what is a tree? And that the tree gives shadow, it's cooling down the temperature, it's attracting the rain. If it's a fruit tree, you can harvest fruits. So about those benefits.
So we need also to, how do you say, talk with the locals and teach the kids about nature.
Exactly. This must be integrated in school, not only 1 week a
Mathematics,
year, but
exactly.
every week there must be 3 or 4 hours about
A day trip out in the
that they
nature.
could also live without tourism. and not to be dependent, because one day tourists will not come anymore because there will be no water because of the drilling. I mean, it's also not endless water, and the desalination is killing the sea.
And this is true.
The sea. So I see it in some areas where I snorkel since my whole life, and it's dead. There is nothing left. So there are no plants. You have turquoise water. People find it beautiful, turquoise water, but what does it mean? It means that there's no life. So everything gets white, and that's the water is turquoise, and that's. We need to wake up. It's nearly too late. Huh?
It's nearly too late.
In a way, it is too late, but still, as people continue making kids, I think there's a responsibility to us.
We need to educate the new generation in going back to nature, or have invest also in nature. Tourism and nature can go together.
Of course,
It doesn't mean either or. We can have both tourism.
Yes.
Not good tourism. Responsible tourism, let's say,
well,
also invest in nature, invest in the paths, so that more people come in the earlier months or in later months, for example, September or October, since May.
Yes, of course, it is possible, but also we have to do it. It's not to ask the tourists to be more responsible.
It's up to us.
For example, in the village, there are 16 or more fountains. And let's say a couple of years ago, the water was spring water. And it would have been so easy to say, EOS Island is forbidding to import mineral water or drinking water in plastic bottles, because there's free drinking water, which is spring water for everyone. I mean, this marketing effect is huge. Look how islands where cars are forbidden. It's a huge marketing effect.
So this is a very nice idea to promote spring water, because there are several springs here on the island.
Yes.
Most of the foreigners don't know about them, and instead of buying bottled water and polluting more and more, they can get free water from the spring.
Exactly, and you have also a lot of wells on the big streets, so it's also easy just to park your car if you are lazy, and to fill up your
bottles, like most of the do.
It's even less to carry than to carry it outside from the supermarket to put it in your car.
This is another idea we can promote here on the island to attract responsible tourism and also save the environment.
Of course. So I think plastic bottles are a huge, huge problem, because on no island I know the waste management is on a more or less okay side. It's terrible. I mean, it's terrible in the whole world.
Yes.
So why should it be different here on an island? So I'm blaming no one. I think the only thing we can do is not to bring waste on the island, or what will be waste on the island, and also not to produce waste, or also to say, look, when we have the vegetables or what we use in the kitchen, so everything what is organic, to collect it and to bring it on a big site where it makes humus or earth again, or to dig it in the earth. So this could be one thing, but also is not just to use it. When you go to the supermarket and you see the shelf,
everything is full of
plastic, detergent, full all this plastic, and also, I mean, you eat it, you have it inside your body, the microplastic, everything we know about this problem. So this, I think, goes a little bit too, or it's too much asking. But I think one thing what could be really done is to say no to plastic bottles. Or when you look at your coffee, the straw, the natural straw. If this is blown away, it's a natural piece. So it's even not like bamboo straw or like paper straw. So it's just a simple straw from the plant itself, cut.
We you shared your thoughts about all this, about the environment, about EOS. Now I would like to ask you, what was your thoughts when you started buying or renting this area and building this cafe? Because right now we are in the upper square, as the locals say. And could you tell us a few things about what it was when you first came here? What was this place?
in my real life, I'm a film production designer and a costume designer, and since 35 years, I'm doing the scenography and the planning of huge events. And I never had the idea to do a non-ephemeric.
Ephemeric means?
It's when I do a film production design of an event, I create a surrounding,
okay,
space,
scenery, okay,
a scenery, which is just there for 1 day or 2 days or for a couple of hours, and then continues living in the memory of the people, or in photos, or in a video, or in a film. And so creating places which stay. So like when I do and design for a restaurant or for a bar or for a house or for a flat, it always means that it's staying and it gets its own
it's
life.
last. Okay.
It lasts. And so for me, it was never so much interesting to be owner of something, or to be, let's say, also responsible for this over decades or many years. So when my father died in 2016, I kept on coming here to the island, and then another woman from the same generation from my father was completely convinced that I have to get her house, which is in Gamanoli between the harbor and Hora. And so after a while, I catch fire. This was also the period of the pandemic. So, and I said, okay, it's a big garden. I would never use it private because I don't want to own a house and to live in a house like this. So what could I do? So I started creating the idea of having a bar and a restaurant, but having my own products, and getting, of course, environmental friendly, and search about how to do this, all with this in what I believe.
So what you represent, you put it into life.
Exactly.
Okay.
And how in my life it was always like this, that one thing comes to the other. So I started this place in Germanoli, and then came suddenly someone suggests, why don't you rent this place here?
So this place over here.
This place here. You must know, since 20 years, this platea here was dead. There was no life at all. There
yes,
was no
I remember.
It was like a ghost platea. And 30 years ago, this place used to be a Cafe Neo.
Cafe Neo.
And you are looking like this because they built a top floor or a first floor in the meantime. And I like this idea also because I said, if there's a coffee place or cafe and bar, it could be also open in winter, because in winter nearly nothing is open. And
so, like you said, you build something in order to last not only for summer but also in winter.
Exactly.
Okay, and you name it Agora because
as a child they were always on this place here, like this. People sitting, mostly men, with some buckets here and selling their fruits and vegetables. Of course, talking and talking. People were passing by, and it was extremely alive. There was a restaurant here, the cafe here, and so that's why I called it Agora, because that's in a way also what I would like to recreate maybe next year and 2 years, that people come again and start selling. I talked with the municipality and they say, yes, just do it. No? And so that also people, a lot of people, they have some olives, they have some honey, they have some figs or whatever, they just could sell it here. And that it's alive.
So, like in the old days, let's say that there is a sign of the path here. Okay, this path leads where?
Those paths, there are two paths. One, you can hike up in the hills to Profitilia, and the other is you go either to Skakos, which is one of the oldest settlements in the Cycladic. It's older than Akrotiri and Santorini, and it's a beautiful archaeological site where you can not only see but feel the spirit of those time. Also, how it's positioned, and you can oversee the harbor and everything, and you can hike. It's a path to Ayasiodoti, and when you really look around, you see you can even follow another path which leads to Psasi, or on the southwest side of the island. So that's a departure point.
Exactly.
And this coffee place in old times the farmers, when they went to Pano Campo, to the upper fields or to Bure, used to take their coffee in the morning, but at 5 o'clock or something like this, and
The sunrise.
took this way to go to the field.
And when they were coming back, they ended up over here, like you said, with their products, and they were selling them.
They were selling, they were talking, they were drinking raki or wine or sometimes also nothing. They were just here. So it was completely alive and communicative.
And this is what you bring back to life. You decided to bring back to life. And for us, being a local, it's very important to see this initiatives like this that promote this lifestyle.
Yes, and it's for the local people. It's for you.
It's for you.
Also, I'm someone I like very much craftsmanship. So, for example, those chairs, which are the traditional fisherman chairs, like you call it. Every island has a different style. So one is from Faros, one is from Naxos. They all had their chair. So here you find a mix of different styles of chairs. But there were the old ones. You see here on the side,
Yes.
you cannot just take the top off and replace it with a new one. No, someone has to fix it on the chair. But for me, details like this are very important.
So you practice what you preach.
In some way, yes. And those tables, for example, it's a copy of an old coffee house table I found on Syros. And I asked a person who's working with iron in Tinos Island to copy them. So those are replicas. Of course, it's not so original, but also it transports the atmosphere.
Exactly.
And on the same time, of course, we are 2024, so it's not only to be in the past, but also in the future. So what for me is important to have here a mix. You have old elements without being folkloristic or kitschy, which comes to now. That's why I keep it very monochrome. So it's kind of chicness or it's photogenic, and also I want to be a little bit different than other places. Now it tends to be very colorful. I like to keep it more.
But it was like this in the old days. It wasn't very colorful.
It was like this, but on the same time, and that's, I think it's a bit funny because it appears suddenly chic or it has a style or a bit stylish, even if it's a very old traditional way. But of course, I know if I would add here now some belts, from the Gatsika, how you say
Yes,
the
yes,
goat.
yes, yes.
So I could make it more folkloristic, but of course I don't want. No? So that's.
But again, you bring back to life the traditional EOS.
Exactly.
And of course, like you said earlier, we drink water from the fountain. It's very important. It's the drinking water. So you don't sell bottled water here to the clients. You don't serve.
Sparkling water, of course, I take very much care about what kind of products we use here. The coffee is the torrefication is on Syros Island, so I don't sell Coca-Cola here, so no big brands. And if, for example, like this summer, there was no rain last winter, so the bees didn't find many flowers, so
Yes.
we nearly have no honey. And so we nearly have no honey, so we don't sell honey. So also racumelo we don't do. And cakes with a lot of honey we don't do. People say, yeah, but you can buy honey in a supermarket. Say, no, that's not the real honey. So I prefer saying, no, we don't have it, and because we cannot get it.
Practice what you preach. Correct.
Yes, and also, for example, I have a very bad review on Google saying I have to learn how to order the products to be able to serve every time what is in the menu card. And say, no, that's we are used to buy the whole year strawberries and things, but they come from South America, they come from South Africa. What is
So going back to local, using local product, we don't need bananas in the winter. We don't need strawberries.
No,
We eat what we have. We eat what we produce.
and there's always something what we can find.
Exactly.
Yeah? And what we can harvest also. For example, I did a salad 2 days ago And I could already harvest so much, but while harvesting, and you feel so strong after. So the nature gives you all what you really need. But of course, you need the knowledge and you need to do it.
Now, slowly, this knowledge is fading away because the new generation is not interested in this.
They'd see a chicken and ask where are the 4 other wings, because they're used to buy 6 packs of chicken wings. I mean, honestly, it's I'm not inventing this.